So, something I mentioned during the meditation, which I hadn't raised before, was the word unconditional, right? Unconditional, like unconditional love. And usually we think of it as like that's purely the domain of like a mother to a child. Like there's no other example for that. And in fact, the Buddha uses that as the example in the Metta Sutra. Uses it as a mother to a child. You know, unconditional love. It's a pretty good model, but pretty hard to achieve. If you're not a healthy mother.
Even if you're a mother, it's hard.
Yeah, I know.
You know.
No, I mean, as a father, but yeah, maybe it's easier for me because I'm a father and I don't. It's not easier. But the point is, what does unconditional mean? What does unconditional mean? Like, what do we mean by unconditional? And here's also a really important thing with metta. Okay? It's not about liking the person. Right? Love, Buddhist love, and liking are not the same thing. Right? They're not the same thing. And it's not romantic love, we know that for sure. Because that comes and goes. So it's kind of conditional. Like you gotta serve it, you gotta be good to each other. And the thing is with I would say a healthy parental, one that's not like wounded like most of us, scarred from our own experiences and bad examples. But if we were to think of it like a good example, you'd think that probably even if the kid, like you just want to kill them, you still love them. Like even, you still want the best for them, even if like they're driving you nuts, and you can actually say like, I really don't want to see you for at least tomorrow. No, but they drive you crazy, but it's unconditional, meaning it doesn't matter what they do, okay? They deserve happiness. Why? Because they exist. Well, for parents, because they're also yours, they're your ward, they're your, ultimate responsibility. But what about the level of existence? Like kind of existential love, if you could say. This is kind of the Buddhist approach. It's not because they're yours, but in fact, everyone's yours. What if we were to think of it that way? That is not just the personal, like the fact that they have your genes and gave birth to you, but part of the like general gene pool of human beings. What if everybody's yours, right? Like you're part of this whole family. What if the family was actually the human family and not just the immediate child? And why do we stop like with that specific gene? Because they happen to come out of our bodies. But what if actually we spread it out and we opened it up? And we do that actually, don't we? I mean, we do that, but we stop at a certain point. Like we do it, we say, okay, well, there's like immediate family, and then there's extended family, and and then the love starts kind of, or the unconditionality, I don't know. The unconditional nature of it starts to wane, and then it becomes like, enemies at some point, or it just doesn't exist. I mean, when does that happen? Like how far beyond that circle of immediacy does it no longer become unconditional? Or is it just for the child? But if we do understand that there is like something with a familial bond that we have, and remember, these are ideas that we live by. They are not like existential realities. They're ideas that in codes of society that we make so that, yes, you will, protect, you'll die for your family, let's say, if they're in a flood, but the family next door, you're not necessarily going to put yourself out for if their house is flooded. You're going to protect yours first, right? But you understand that's a convention, right? I mean, that is an idea we live by. It's not an existential reality. It's something that helps us survive. It's a good thing, but it's limited. Metta is unlimited. What if we expanded that care and concern beyond the borders of our own houses? What would it be like to have that type of care for a child for people you're not related to. Can you imagine? Now, I know there are some tribal societies where actually the children were pretty much brought up. They say it takes a village to raise a child. Well, there are these places where it actually happened like that. Like the children would go from house to house and they were nursed by different mothers, and it was really like a communal thing. Okay? It's not very common. Okay? And that may not be the example we're looking for. But it's just an example to say that the type of possessiveness we have towards our unconditional love is conditioned. Okay? It's basically, dogma. What if we were to open that? And what if we were to see that, the family is bigger, or the children are bigger, and then you get into the realm of what seems like the impossible, actually. The realm of the impossible. But certain Buddhist groups don't see that as impossible. Like Tibetan Rinpoches, who will say, since we are reincarnated back forever, infinity backwards, that means through all these reincarnations, at some point, everybody was your child. So, the unconditional love that you have for this person right now is just like a quirk in time. This is just this current situation. But everybody actually at some point was in that relationship for you. So, you have short-term memory, but that's okay, We're here to remind you that that you should remember. You should remember that it actually, that relationship, that essential relationship of total unconditionality is essentially for everyone. But it'd be really hard to live that way unless you were really enlightened. But isn't that what we're trying to do? And you think, okay, I can't live that way. I'm not going to be unconditionally loving for everybody in the same way I am for my child. How would I live that way? And how would I deal with my child? Well, it doesn't mean that your own child is going to get less, does it? Isn't that the amazing thing about love? Is that the more you give, the more you have? It's kind of remarkable, isn't it? It's not like an expendable resource. It actually is unlimited. So when you start loving more, you notice that you have more love to give. Try it. You'll see. It doesn't actually, it's a conditioning and an approach. It's not a resource. It's not an amount. It's not a substance. So when we start to consider others with that view of, you may not be my child, but you're somebody's child. And if that person isn't giving you unconditional love, that doesn't mean you don't deserve it. You still deserve that, don't you? And I'm sorry you didn't get it. Maybe you did, and I'm glad for you. But you still deserve it. Right? What if we were to consider everybody, maybe not as our child, but as a child? As someone's child. Okay? And they happen to have missed out on some essential training. Or maybe receiving some essential, unconditional love. And that causes certain disruptions in our behavior. Meaning we're always then needy, because we never got the greatest good. So we're always looking to fill that hole with substitutes that don't work. But since we don't recognize that, we keep hoping that more will do it. And then we run out of the resources, right? And that's what's happening. Because we're trying to fill that essential hole with the wrong things. But really, we have the correction right here. We have what we need to give. And it's that care and concern. It's that wish that you will be really happy and free from suffering. As a co-traveler, as an equal to me. Now, the Buddha, when he taught about metta, it came from the Pali, which had a root of these two words to it. Right? Metta comes from two words that came together, and one of them is rain, and the other one is gentle, like gentle rain, and the other one is friend. So the gentle rain friend. Kind of nice, eh? Sort of sounds like a Japanese kind of haiku of some sort. Or a Native American name. I am gentle rain friend.
Friend?
Yes.
Friend.
I am gentle rain friend. Come to save you. It reminds me of this. This Native American elder was once asked this woman who was considered to be really wise and good, and they asked her, "How is it that you're so you seemed enlightened?" And she said, "Well, there are two wolves in my heart, right? One is a loving wolf and one is an angry wolf. And every day it just depends on which one I feed." And it's not sort of a magical thing. It's not like I was, I saw the light. No, there are always these two wolves. Romulus and Remus, is it? Always these two wolves in my heart. Which one am I going to nourish? The selfish one or the metta? And they're there. So that's a choice we make again and again. And that is the same choice in mindfulness. And that's why the connection between mindfulness practice and metta, cultivating love, is really one thing. Because you're making that wise choice again and again. Where do I want to invest my energies? What do I want to nourish in my life? Which wolf? The wolf of possession or the wolf of giving? Which one? And it's not like a wolf and a lamb. That's the other thing you should notice. It's not like this nice lamb. It's kind of weak and vulnerable and whatever. Nice. No, it's a wolf. Okay? Sometimes love is ferocious. Right? It has to say no, this cannot be. Okay? The pain has to end. Okay? The terror has to end. The negativity, the murder, all the transgressions have to end. That's the wolf of, prajna, wisdom. But it's coming from a place of, and then you will discover happiness and joy and freedom because you will not be enslaved by these negative patterns. So that's really care. So there's a gentle rain friend. Now, what is a gentle rain friend? It's rain because the Buddha said it was like rain because it falls unconditionally. Falls all over. On the rocks, on the trees, on the grass, on the dogs, on the cars. It falls indiscriminately. It just falls unconditionally. It doesn't pick and choose. Right? The great way is not difficult. Just don't pick and choose. So who are you picking and choosing to give your attention and love to? This person's more worthy than that person? So the indiscriminate nature is saying no, everyone deserves your love. Not your intimate love, not your romantic love, not your child love, but that unconditional metta. Okay? That is possible. Remember, you're not limited by how much love you can give. That is real important. It's not I'll get burnt out. No, you'll find you have more and more and more because you're tapping into an infinite source. What is that source? It's called Buddha mind. You're tapping into the nature of your own mind that is not limited by your selfhood. It's our limits of our sense of self that make us think, I can love this person and not that person. I can care for this person, not that person. And it doesn't mean I'm going to invite you home and make you a meal and tuck you in and do all those things, right? That's not what we mean. It means that sense of regard of you're equal and deserving of the same goods of each person on this planet. The same ones that I want for myself, you deserve too, right? And I may really not like you, but I will recognize that you deserve it as much as I do, right? And maybe if you were to finally get some, you'd behave a bit nicer. The compassion is realizing that their bad behavior comes from a sense of often being mistreated, right? But the love is recognizing that as an equal human being, they deserve as much good and freedom as you do, right? Irrespective of their deeds, irrespective of their deeds. They'll pay the karma for that, but that's not for you to enforce. Your job is not to make sure that they pay their karma, right? The universe will take care of that. Your job is to accept them as they are and recognize that they deserve happiness and freedom.
Is it okay that, some people you really, because of their deeds, really don't want around you?
Yeah.
And kind of put a limit to what's around you in your environment. But so you could still have that regard while putting the limits on.
Yeah, that's what I said, don't invite them over.
Okay.
Don't serve them dinner. Don't say I'm going to really be friends with you. No, you're not. Right. You're from a distance. But that's the point. You're also recognizing your own limits, right? The metta is also accepting you. Remember, so much of the basis of cultivating metta is self-acceptance.
Right.
And if my limits are such that, I cannot deal with that person who really mistreated me in the past, but I still wish them to be happy from a distance. Okay? That's also accepting. That's the love you give to yourself. Right? That unconditional love, it starts, starts at home. So the other aspect of this, the gentle rain friend, is it is gentle, like you're not going to say, I'm going to love you. And, you're not going to force any changes that they, it's not for you to change them, right? The best way for someone to change is to see that you accept them as they are now. And you also regard them with perhaps even greater, a greater view than they have for themselves. Like, I can see you, what is that view? Honestly, it's in Mahayana, we say it's the Buddha nature, or even in Theravada, we say, like, you have the enlightened potential. You have the potential for full enlightenment. In Mahayana, you have the reality of full enlightenment. You just don't realize it. And I also don't see it in you. but I see it as like, that's my belief. So we're cultivating a certain belief. Yes, there is faith in this tradition, it's true. But it's faith in mind. It's not faith in something above. It's faith in your own mind. So I have the faith that my mind and your minds, are all equally enlightened and of the same nature of clear awareness, of Buddha nature, right? And I can regard you as having that nature. And I can accept you more easily because I see that under the surface of all that nonsense, there's Buddha nature. Okay? And that can help cultivate for me, just on my level, greater tolerance. Okay?
I have a question.
Yep. One thing. Amir, put it first and then you. Go ahead.
I feel that every time I have a struggle with, struggle is not the right word, but every time I find myself disengaging from someone, like trying to find distance, and a lot of times I often realize that practicing loving kindness is not helpful for me in that when that happens. But what helps me is actually practicing my own, like to see my own mistakes, and then from there it's like, oh, I'm judging him, but I'm just the same, maybe different attitude, I act differently, but still kind of really shows me that I'm not perfect. But in that way, my imperfection is very helpful.
Yeah. Well, also we have to understand, and this is why I teach when we do the meditation of cultivating loving kindness or metta, it's done in stages. And remember, what you're doing is when you find like it's not helpful to direct it towards someone else, then basically you direct it towards yourself, right? So you're still practicing metta, but instead of saying, I'm going to like recognize your Buddha nature and wish you the best, you're like, I can't deal with you. I'm going to accept myself and accept the fact that I can't deal with you, and still like hold it, right? That's metta. It's still metta, right? It's just which direction is it going, and that's why we always have to come back to that base. That base is saying, yeah, I'm going to have to accept where I am before I can even work on accepting where they are. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty much the same practice. It's just which direction is it going.
Aren't we limited by the love we don't receive in exchange of the love we give? Like, if we are trying to give love to someone and that person doesn't receive it, it's a limitation, right?
What does it mean to receive it, though? Like, what do we expect to happen? Like, what is going on? What is receiving?
Not a wall?
Not a wall?
Okay.
Like they kind of smile and say thanks.
No, you know it.
Yeah, no, they're responsive in some way. Yeah. But you realize that's coming from your own need. It's not coming from them. Right?
Okay.
That's coming from a need to feel like I did something. So there's a little bit of self-need there mixed in. It's hard to have pure metta because often it's mixed up with our personality and our own needs. So that you're saying something that happens all the time. It's like, I'm going to practice metta and this person is still like, you know, so difficult. Like, what's going on? Yeah. So basically, you know, the acknowledgement you need is from yourself, that you're giving what you can. You know, again, you're not responsible for other people's karma, you're responsible for your own. So the only thing you can change is how soft and open your own mind is, not how soft and open someone else's mind is. And basically, one of the truths of metta training is that first and foremost is transforming our own minds. And what's happening out there is not really like, we do what we can, but you know, I'm not going to knock on their door and say, you feeling better? It's more like, you know, maybe it gets lost on the way. Maybe they don't receive it. Maybe their door is always closed. It's true. But what we're doing really is transforming our own minds. And by being an example of how the power of metta, directed towards others, directed towards self, and that directing it towards others is at the same time transforming yourself, is directing it towards yourself. So by doing that, the expectations change. It's not so much what, you know, how others are going to respond. That's really up to them. That is totally up to them. They one day maybe they'll see us as somebody who's open and receptive, caring and attentive. But until that happens, they could just be closed. And we'll keep working on what? Our own minds. Right? Does that make it selfish and self-centered? Well, wait. We're actually trying to be open and caring for others. So, you know, by definition, it's not selfish. Does it have an effect on the outside world? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But, you know, that also has to do with other people's choices and karma. And I'm not in control of that. Yeah? Part of the acceptance is accepting what you're not in control of. You're definitely not in control of their ability to receive your love. But you are in control of your ability to give it. That's what this practice is about. So we got the gentle rain down, but the friend part, gentle rain friend, is basically kind of defining the fact that like a Kalya Mitra is a spiritual friend. A spiritual friend is somebody, a spiritual friend. Yeah. There's like a term in Pali for spiritual friend. And it just means somebody who's like really wants the best for you and is here as part of your Sangha to support you on your path. You know? Like, you have friends you go drink beer with, you have friends you see movies with, you have friends you go to shows with, your friends may be at work. And then you have friends with whom you can discuss your spiritual life. And it's not necessarily all the other ones. But it's the people who you feel like, hey, you know, we're sharing a certain vocabulary here. And I want to share that with you and talk about it. And I want to support you with that. And that's what Sangha really is about. You kind of like share a certain perspective and you can talk about it and support each other with it. Even if you don't say anything, you come and you sit together. That's the friend. The friend is saying, you know, I'm a friend, but not just a good time friend. Maybe I'm a bad time friend. I'm like a friend for you when it's bad. You know, and not a lot of friends are like that. They're like good time friends, you know? But a spiritual friend is a bad time friend. You know, come to me when it's hard. Come to me when it's bad. And then I'll sit with you, you know? So that's the gentle rain friend. And the gentle is that like, and I'm not going to require anything from you. I'm not going to demand that, come on, get out of it, you know? You know, sometimes we're impatient with saying, oh, enough already. Like, you've been talking about this for years. Like, give it up. No, it's like, okay, you're going to talk about this for the rest of your life. This is your path, and I'm going to sit with it. You know? I'm not going to abandon you because I don't like your choices. So, Spirit, gentle rain friend. Chief, gentle rain friend. What the Buddha said about, he taught loving kindness in relation to, not as like a separate kind of topic, but as one of four immeasurables, they're called, or Brahma Viharas, or great qualities that we all know and love and stay away from. But, there's a loving kindness and compassion, sympathetic joy, equanimity. Those four great legs to this table, the chair that we're sitting on. And the loving kindness, basically the wish that others will have true happiness, that we'll have true happiness. Okay, happiness not from the outside, but happiness from the inside. Okay, that we won't depend on any external factors. That we will be able to realize the nature of my mind as joyous, porous, happy, open, accepting, and giving in the most dire circumstances. Until then, we work with circumstances. But that's the happiness, and of course the compassion. And the Buddha said, he was teaching his son, actually, Rahula. So it's interesting, again, the parent-child relationship. And the first time he taught the four immeasurables, these qualities that have no measure, they're infinite and unconditional, was when he was trying to help his son out. Because apparently his son, Rahula, was a really good-looking guy, and vain. It happens. He was vain.
Well,
his
father, kind of ran away when he was a baby.
Yeah, his father ran away, so he was compensating. There's a whole, we could do a, psychoanalytic analysis of Buddhist family. And all the teachings that came out of that, and then how we're kind of stuck. So, we're paying the price. So there's Rahula, and by the way, what does Rahula mean? You want to hear bad news. What does he name his son? Yeah, bonds, chains, like bondage. He called his son bondage. Nice, huh? That's unconditional love. Hey, he's a beautiful little baby boy. I'm stuck. I'm stuck now. So a kid who grows up with a name like that is obviously going to have issues. So he compensated by being really proud of his looks. And his pedigree also, because, hey, his father's the Buddha. So even in the monastery, that granted him some status, right? Remember, they're coming from Indian caste system, and Buddha's on top. So Rahula's like second place, and a looker. So, his father saw this, and he's like, okay, let's go for a walk. So he went for a walk, and he said, listen, Rahula, I'm going to teach you about the four immeasurables, right? And he said, loving kindness, okay, metta. It's not just wishing others. He saw them as antidotes to problems that we encounter. And he said that loving kindness was the antidote to anger, okay? That cultivating metta was, the way to deal with when you feel angry, which is actually pretty powerful when you think about it. I'm sure Rahula was angry a lot of the time. And his father recognized that and say, if you want to be free from anger, how do you do it? And pretty much all the traditions, I know in Maimonides, Rambam said that the only quality that has no value is anger. Right? So anger, there's something real problematic with it. It burns. It's considered fire. It's hot. And, the heat of anger is destructive no matter what. We sometimes think, there's righteous anger. I'll be angry and it'll be for a good cause. Really? You ever seen protesters, who are really angry and what they look like? They look the same faces of anger as the people they're protesting. It's identical. You can't see any difference between the two sides. They're both destructive and cannot view the other. That's what anger does. It makes you blind to the other side. So this is the antidote. Metta is a full regard of the other side. It's unconditional acceptance and regard and attention to the other side. That's what I've been teaching all day, is acceptance and attention. And that's what metta is. right? It's not saying, I love you. No, I'm saying, I see you. I see you, okay? And I will listen to you. I will hear you. I will be gentle rain friend, meaning I may not agree with you, but I will sit and I'll listen to your point of view. And then we'll open something, right? And anger is saying, no, I don't want anything to do with you. I won't hear you. You're just wrong. Okay? So he says, this is the antidote. You know? You don't need to work through your issues. Just like practice this openness, this attention, this acceptance, this love. And it's unconditional. This person may be really have done some seriously bad stuff. Okay? You're getting angry is not going to help them change their ways. But you're fully regarding them as an equal person, maybe will suddenly do something in the way they see you. So that the enemy is the friend who never paid attention. Right? And he said, and compassion is the antidote to cruelty. Cruelty is the willful, intentional causing of harm. When you recognize that the harm that you're causing, that you know what it feels like, right? You can actually see it from their point of view. I mean, it's pretty hard to cause harm then, right? The only way you can cause harm is by complete disconnect from the reality of the other person. That's why in traditional societies, when they go to war, they always would paint their faces, okay? And that's why armies wear uniforms, right? To make themselves anonymous and separate from the other, so that you don't recognize the personhood, they don't recognize your personhood. There's like, it becomes indifferent and anonymous. So that's a necessary step to committing, like, mass violence, is the anonymity of it. So he said, like, compassion is actually recognizing the individual nature of the suffering, okay, and what it's like also, identifying with it. And then cruelty, it'd be pretty hard to cause cruelty if you're identifying with it. So, and the third was sympathetic joy. Interestingly enough, he said, sympathetic joy is the antidote to hatred. Sympathetic joy is the antidote to hatred.
Metta, no?
Actually, in the original Pali, he said, in the Dhammapada, he said, hatred is never solved by hatred; it's only cured by love. That's, he said that's an eternal law. It's true. But when he teaches Rahula with these four, he says, Metta is for anger. Karuna, compassion, is for cruelty. Sympathetic joy is for hatred. Okay? Because it's really incompatible to be happy for someone else's success and hate them at the same time. Like, it just is like, can't happen. If you want to be sharing someone else's joy, it's almost impossible. I can't imagine, like, how could you still hold some hatred for them? Sympathetic joy is actually really identifying with somebody else's joy and happiness, success, and pleasure. All of these are doing the same thing. What are they all doing? They're all doing something similar. That how closely can we identify with the other? That's what it's all about. These are all different ways of the same technique of saying the other is not other. The other is you. Okay, the other is you. The four immeasurables are all about that. Equanimity, the last one, okay, where he said equanimity, what was an antidote for? He said it's the antidote to prejudice. Which is really, really quite true. Equanimity is the antidote to prejudice. Yeah, to like having discrimination and prejudice and like negative views of others. Okay? Because equanimity is seeing everything as equal, like equal. And it's also viewing all of your likes and dislikes on the same plane, right? They're all fictions of the mind. What do we do when we practice equanimity? We view everything equally. Equally as what? Equally false. Equally mind. Equally projections of my own karma, my own ideas. Equally just, made up. Any idea, any ideology, any type of belief, we view it equally. What does that mean? Made up. illusions. That if I see them as like illusions, fictions of the mind, sometimes skillful, sometimes not, then I have more ability to choose them or let them go. Okay? And that's why equanimity is really helpful against prejudice. Because I can see, hey, wait a second, this point of view is not written in stone. And it's not coming from the other person. Like, say, a prejudice. Okay? It's not coming from them. Where does prejudice come from? It doesn't come from the people you prejudice against. Obviously. Okay? And equanimity recognizes all views, beliefs, dogma, ideas you have about yourself, about others, as projections from your own mind, not from the outside world. Okay? You don't receive them, you project them. Now you receive those ideas from other people who are holding those ideas, okay? But not from the factual evidence of the world. Metta is coming back to that factual evidence. Okay? So you do full circle. Metta is saying, wait a second, before you get lost in all those ideas, what are you smelling, feeling, tasting, touching, hearing, thinking? What is this reality right now? Are you paying attention to it? And attention is enough. Really, attention is enough. Seeing is dealing. Okay? But see without projecting all of your ideas onto the reality. That's love. Okay? Just see it. See the person. Hear them. Even if it's difficult and it's triggering inside you negative reactions, see those reactions. The metta also towards yourself and towards the other person are simultaneous. You can be hearing what they're having to say, and you can be experiencing your own negativity at the same time. There's enough metta in you to regard and accept them both. Okay? That's the cultivation of metta-based awareness. You accept your reactions, you accept what they're saying, without needing to jump to any type of conclusion. Think of it, in a simple way. Okay? That sense of regard, attention, acceptance, being present as an expression of unconditional love. Think about, talking to someone, going out for dinner with a friend, talking on the phone, whatever. And you get a little bit bored, and you look at your phone. Or they get a little bit bored, and they look at their phone. Do you feel loved? Okay? And it's not love like, oh, honey. It's love like, you just don't care. Like, I'm here. And you're, like, regarding someone who's not here? How does that work? Physical. I'm here. Blood. Flesh, hair, body, scent, everything. I'm here. So for a few sentences, it wasn't so engaging. And I was repeating myself. Does that mean you should escape? What's going on? Try to pay attention. See it. If you can't do it for an extended period of time, do it for less amounts of time. But when you're doing it for that time, do it for that time. Children, when they're playing, and I've used this example all the time because I've experienced it a lot. Children don't say, so much in the beginning, praise me, praise me, praise me. When they're on the climbers and stuff, they say, look at me, look at me. They don't want me to say, oh, good job. They just want me to look at them. Pay attention. That's all they're asking for. You want to love your children? Just look at them. Okay? Pay attention and don't be on your phones. Right? It's the worst message you can give them or anyone. Okay? It's not just that they don't care. It's what kind of reality are we creating in terms of how we acknowledge each other's reality. And if you can't do it to the people you actually like, how are we going to do it with the people who are really difficult? First, start with yourself. Metta is an essential practice to a peaceful, well-functioning world. It's simply the act of paying attention unconditionally. Meaning, it doesn't depend on whether they're interesting to me or whether they're, pleasant for me. It's just that they are. You exist. And because you exist, you deserve unconditional regard. There's some of the great spiritual giants. You read about them, Buddha, Dalai Lama, heard about the Lubavitcher Rebbe, that people walk away from a meeting with these people, and they all say the same thing. I felt like I was the most important person in the world. Isn't that amazing? And he does that 1,000 times a day. For years. That's just his awareness that every person, when you're in front of me, is the most important person. And there's no contradiction. There are as many most important people as there are people. It is possible. It is possible and true. And it will transform your mind. It truly will. But slowly. Okay? Slowly. But friends, there's no other way. There's no other way. Otherwise, we're lost in the dream. And it's a lonely place, because it's only our dream. You get outside and you see there's lots of people who are the most important people. Right? And compassion is recognizing that among everyone. Loving kindness is then looking at them in that way. So we're going to do what's called an adventure in Metta. Yes, we are.
That sounds suspicious.
It is. Not suspicious. It's fun. It's called walking meditation. But it's a neighborhood walk. Yes. And we're going to take about 25 minutes now. We're going to have a longer walking meditation. But you're not going to do this slow zombie walk. You know? You're not just going to, like, look at me, I'm really slow. Super mindful. No. That's just odd if you're doing it out, like, on the streets. If you're doing it, like, in a retreat place, great. But I'm inviting you to go on a metta adventure. Which is basically wander the streets, be aware of the time, know how long it takes you to get so far and how long it'll take you to get back. But over 25 minutes, what it means is that you will be open and looking around and observant to every sentient being you pass by. You hear a bird, metta. Okay? A car passes. Oh, metta. Somebody passes you on the street. You look like a Buddha. It is possible, okay? It sounds like fun, it is, okay? And it sounds crazy, but what's worse? Out of my way, Go on. So this is all about, do they receive anything? I don't know. Probably not. Maybe. Who knows? That's not your question. Your question is, am I giving? Your question is not what they are receiving. Your question is, am I giving? And so on this metta adventure, the adventure is, how much can I give? And can I do it to everyone I pass on the street and everyone I see? So, the more the better, right? So I'm 1440. How's that? My math is, see what it's like? Is that 305?
Yeah.
Okay. 305. Can you kind of make it back into the vicinity, this area of the building by 305? So that by 310 we'll be sitting back on our butts. Okay? Have a happy journey. Don't get lost. Because I won't be ringing the bell. I'm not going to walk all over looking for you. Okay? You're responsible for yourself.